Friends, thank you for watching my channel. I just want to remind you, if you need wallpaper, go to www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Tell them Spencer sent you. In fact, if you use my hashtag, Spencer Colgan is wallpaper, they'll be sure to give you 10% off at your checkout. No matter how much you order, they have a wide selection of wallpaper. Check it out. Hi, this is Spencer Colgan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Spencer Colgan is Wallpaper. Today I'm installing a typical wallpaper mural. The only thing different about it being typical is that it's peel and stick, but today the peel and stick product is actually becoming typical, more and more popular. But for now, it's still atypical. So a lot of do-it-yourselfers are hanging peel and stick products. This was the wall I was called, well, this is the texture. That's actually the wall. But this is the texture I was called to wallpaper over. Now, listen to this one. The customer hung his own peel and stick, he says, about a year ago over this. I think with his permission, I'm going to show you what it looks like in this video. I said, that's not going to stay up. He agreed. He said, yeah, I have to keep pushing it up at the top. And it's in a laundry room, which is inclined to accumulate lots of humidity. If your dryer is not hooked up right, or if it's on for a long time, it tends to get very humid in there. So the wallpaper, to my surprise, is actually staying on the walls, but isn't very stuck to the wall. I think I would like to show you what I mean by that. When I push on the product, you can hear the product move, and that is a danger to peel and stick. So for many of you that email me through YouTube or send me emails on my public email asking about peel and stick, please watch the entire video, because this is how to install peel and stick properly. Now, I have many videos on peel and stick. Just YouTube my name and put peel and stick, and you'll see at least half of my videos show up. Okay? If I had more time, I would link all of the videos on peel and stick in each peel and stick video, but it takes a lot of time, and I don't have that time. So we went from what you just saw to this. And that is that I filled in those bumps. I filled in those bumps because those bumps are little mountains. If you think about a mountain, think about hundreds of mountains together, trapping air. You know that in between mountains, temperature and climate is different than if you were to go straight up to the top of the mountain and experience a climate and the air quality at the very top, as opposed to being in the middle of the mountain. Well, if we go over to this wall, you'll see lots of nooks and crannies. And in between the highs are the mountains that are keeping this blade from touching the bottom of the wall surface. You can see in the center of your camera a space, and that is because all of the highs touching the blade are preventing the blade from touching the bottom. Those bottoms trap air when you cover them with vinyl or any other wallpaper, but particularly vinyl. Paper eventually permits the air to seep out through the paper because you're wetting the paper. And when you wet the paper, you're creating like a sieve, S-I-E-V-E. Did you ever put you see when your pants get wet at the very bottom, right? Near your boots, you'll see that the water comes up a lot higher than you were actually standing in the water, because the action of the fabric absorbing upward takes place, right? And so when you put a wallpaper over the wall and you wet the wallpaper, well, that everything is attached to the wallpaper and the air passes out of the wallpaper. Wallpaper is manufactured with the idea in mind that the air trapped in the water, in the paste, passes through. Otherwise it would get trapped under there, right? Now, picture plastic. It's not porous, right? Well, all the peel and stick products are vinyl. They're plastic. Okay? And it doesn't permit the air to come out. Therefore, when you trap air in these nooks and crannies, they must necessarily manifest in trapped bubbles. There's no way out for them. You can keep pushing on them with an eraser or a paint roller, but because you're not pushing the product against the valleys of those mountains, because the tops of the mountains are preventing your vinyl from sticking to those valleys, you necessarily have a space which is not a vacuum, and therefore air exists in that space. Well, that air seeks to travel underneath that paper. And what you will see after an hour or two of after hanging vinyl is that the air bubbles like to have a meeting, and they join together, because as the air pushes the vinyl outward away from the wall, the air on the other side of the block or across the street likes to join together, since the air pushing on the vinyl permits the air far away to somehow work its way over to form air pockets. Those air pockets become so strong that it compromises the adhesion of the wallpaper backing, pushing the product off here, then there, then in the middle, until eventually one of the corners or the entire seam gives way. Well, now, as the product peels from the wall on its own, the rest of the nooks and crannies, that is the lows, pushes the product off of the wall until it comes down and hits the floor. And this happens all the time. I told the fellow, this product will not stay up. And as I rubbed my hand on the product, I heard all of the air on his wallpaper. So, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, now that's why the man hired me. He said, I didn't do a good job, so I want to hire somebody who hangs peel and stick. And so, as I told him, I'll tell you, you must fill in the lows so that air doesn't get trapped. When you skim coat, you're filling in those spaces that you see created by the texture. When you fill in those spaces, you eliminate the places into which air traps itself or hides or gets trapped by the vinyl wall covering. And you eliminate your wallpaper from falling off of the wall. Now, you fill it in with what? Well, I fill it in with joint compound, some form of plaster. Okay, whether you use topping compound or a fast drying powder mix. You're filling it in, it gets hard. That's the goal. No more nooks and crannies. But can you wallpaper over this? What do you think? No, it has to be sealed, right? Think about it, a cake that you make out of the box, right? Think about eating the cake without icing on it. The icing seals all of the porous material in the cake and makes it delicious, right? So we're going to put an icing on our plaster and seal all of the porosity contained in our plaster. We're going to make it nice and we're going to finally smooth it out. A final smoothing process. Also, it seals it. It seals the plaster and ties it against the wall underneath it. Now the plaster went on flat paint. Excellent surface over which to apply joint compound. Excellent, because of its porosity. And so there's no taking this off. This is not coming off. In order to restore the texture behind me, you simply have to learn how to apply texture and just simply reapply it. Okay? So when you fill in these, for those of you who rent, who email me, message me, no, there's no getting rid of this. You have to reapply texture. Okay? Did I hit the wall there? What is this thing? Okay, I have to fill that in. So yeah, this is not done. I'm going to put another thin coat on it where you see bumps. And in areas like this, I'm going to leave it because it's nice and flat. So we seal it. What do you seal it with? Well, there are various products on the market with which you can seal your plaster. The first rule is you have to make sure that it's dry. Okay? And then when it's dry, the wet sealant you put over this will then have to dry as well. You don't want to put wallpaper over wet sealant because your sealant will be emitting gas with the paste, if you're using paste for wallpaper, and then you'll have your wall emitting gas, your wallpaper paste emitting gas, and you'll have a lot of gas under the wallpaper, which is what bubbles are. So we wait until this dries so that the only air with which we have to contend is coming from the paste. Simple enough, right? Okay, so now what about peel and stick, Spencer? It doesn't use paste. Well, peel and stick is considered by most of us who hang wallpaper as something that is inferior in the field of wallpaper hanging. It looks great. And all of the big reputable companies are making peel and stick. York, for example, makes beautiful peel and stick. I can't get away from hanging it. I have to hang it. And so I have a method that I use to hang peel and stick. And it's a very popular thing, so I do it. But it's very popular because somehow the advertisers have told do-it-yourselfers this is easy to do. And when you look at the work that they do, it demonstrates to me that it's not easy to do for the do-it-yourselfer. And so I'm here to tell you, if you're spending a lot of money on peel and stick, buy an extra roll because you're going to learn by error. Just take it off the wall and throw it out if you mess it up, because there's no reason why you should install something that doesn't look great. You have to anticipate your errors that you will make for your lack of experience. And after you do that, then you'll learn how to do it better after you make your mistakes. Professionals are people who have made a lot more mistakes than you, and that's why they're called professionals, because they've made their mistakes, and so they do it for a living now. So if you're still making mistakes, you're an amateur. Doesn't mean that professionals don't make mistakes. It means that a professional is somebody who has made the errors that you're making 10 times and no longer makes them. Okay, so we're going to seal this. Now, what can you seal it with, right? Well, you can seal this with a lot of things, but I can't say all of the things that you can use to seal this because somebody may object to it, and but if you contact me privately, I'll tell you there's a lot of things you can seal this with that you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on. The popular things with which to seal your plaster are, number one, Shields, SHIELDZ clear, Shields clear. And I'm not in their manufacturing laboratory, so I can't tell you what's in it, but I suspect that it's a lot of diluted glue, okay? Shields is a great product you can use. They have two popular ones. One is clear and the other one is universal. You could do that. Some folks just use diluted wallpaper paste and they let it dry. You'll have to let it dry. But we who hang professionally consider that the lazy way of going about doing that. Okay? You can also use something that I've advertised on my show before, which is a very high viscosity glue called Weld Bond. Weld Bond comes in a gray container on Amazon, and right on the can, right on the bottle, it says that you could use 1 part Weld Bond, Weld, W-E-L-D, Bond, 1 part Weld Bond, and 5 parts water to seal porous surfaces, believe it or not. I like to use 1 and 3. 1 part water, 3 parts Weld Bond. If you use 5, it flies all over the place and it gets kind of messy. Okay, so other people now, they start getting into, they go to the store and they get primer. They make the mistake, let me get primer. Let me tell you something. Spend the money. Don't come back with a cheap $10 per gallon primer and say, well, the guy at the store said it was. Here's how you know you bought the wrong stuff. You put up the sheet, you start moving it around, you pull it off, look on the back of your wallpaper after you pull it off, and you see part of your wall on your wallpaper. Stop right there, stop the project, clean your wallpaper off with a wet sponge and a hard piece of plastic. Get the plaster off of your wallpaper. Let the wallpaper dry on the shell side facing down. That is, that the wet side facing up. Let it dry and leave the project alone for a day. After you fill it back in. Once you void the substrate, that is the wall, and you pull some of this off, your wallpaper is not going to look good when you put it back on, because you have voided some of the area, revealing this texture that is covered in 99% of the entire wall elsewhere. So if you put up your first sheet and you maneuver it because you have to, and it pulls off some of the wall underneath it, that's because you used the wrong sealer, because you listened to the person in the store who didn't know, who tried his best and told you to get the wrong thing. What you want to do, keep in mind, is you want to seal this. You don't want to prime it. I may refer to it as priming it, but it is priming it in a sense, to the extent that you need to prime it to get the job going. Okay, but we're really sealing this. And we're going to use a product that ties it down. What does that sound like? It sounds like glue. Okay, so you seal it, and Zinsser makes excellent products to do it. So I gave you Shields, SHIELDZ, universal and clear. I would use clear. You can also use you can use bin, BIN, but that gives you a nice slick surface. If you're going to use bin, which is an expensive option, you could use that, and then when it dries within 25 minutes or so or less, you can roll a layer of paste on the wall to make it sticky. Okay? But bin is a very good sealer. It's very thin. Put down your drop cloth because it's going to go all over. So you can use that. Another product is made by Roman. Roman is something that I should say Roman's RX is prohibited by some companies. It tells you right on the product, do not use RX. You'll see it. For those of us who hang, I called them once, I said, how come I can't use the Romans product? Well, this is what the woman said. We had a problem with it once. Yeah. So I didn't take that as a ringing endorsement against the product they were telling you not to use. Anyway, Roman 999, Roman Pro 999. Okay, that's another product. And that is your cheapest option, actually. You can find that in the continental US at Home Depot, in many Home Depots, for about 22 bucks a gallon. Okay, I'm going to polish this up, fill in where I failed to make it nice and flat, and then I'm going to wait until that dries, and then I'm going to seal it, and then I'm going to hang the mural and tell me what you think in the end. So the customer did his own peel and stick job in this laundry room. But now listen to the differential in noise. Watch this. You hear the difference over here? That's because a lot of air is trapped in here. And the wallpaper, if you look real close, it moves. It has to move because there's nothing underneath it. And eventually that air all comes together and pushes it off. And that's what he told me is happening up there. That corner always has to get pushed up. And if you look real close at the edge of that, do you see that coming off there? Right there. Okay, so a lot of you good folks are writing into me, hey, my peel and stick came down, this and that. I'll just tell you this. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, take a look at that corner right there. You can see that it's off of the wall, right? Now maybe you are off the wall as well. Just kidding. Okay, so you can see that it comes off. And why is it coming off there? Well, those bumps in that corner are not sealed, so the air can come in and out. When this thing blows air in and out, the air pressure in the room changes. It keeps pushing air in there. And slowly but surely, it's pushing that off the wall. Okay? So, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, here's what you do. Pull this up, put some glue under it. Put some glue under it, solve the problem because if you spent your money already and you like the way it looks and you're not a perfectionist, just pull this up and put some glue. Okay? Wallpaper paste. Don't use crazy glue, you'll never get it off. Okay, so the moral of the story is this would not be acceptable in the professional realm. Okay, and that's why if you're a non-professional, you should skim coat the wall before you put this on. You're looking at one of the best wallpaper products on the market today. Look at this. I recently featured a peel and stick right before the close of 2021 on my YouTube channel. If I remember, I will tell you the product name. Look at this. This is high quality peel and stick. Do you see those grooves? This is what you want. Okay? This is high quality stuff. If you like this peel and stick product, this is where it's from. Let me show you one of the benefits of this product. Once you peel the backing off, if you're working alone, this disaster may happen to you, which has happened to me. Look how easily it comes off. Doesn't damage the backing. Can you imagine how much ease you're going to have if you have a friend helping you? Comes right off. I've had peel and stick products that fold over onto itself, and you take the thing and you go to your child's room and you make it like a basketball and you throw it right into his garbage. The one with the little hoop, you just throw it out. I can't emphasize enough the importance of getting a quality peel and stick product. Okay, these folks are serious about their product. Okay, first of all, do you see this not so smooth finish? Lots of peel and stick products scratch, and not only do they scratch, their color comes right off. Look at this stuff. You're not scratching this. I highly recommend it. I don't know Wallpapery. I don't know anybody who works there. I don't have a vested interest in their company. And from what I read in their instructions with this product, I'm going to take a guess that they watch my videos, because they're using terminology that I use in my videos. Valleys and hills. You know, these people do their research. They sell. They don't hang. And how do they do their research? They look online and find professionals who hang it. This is my wording. I wouldn't be shocked if they went on my YouTube video and found these terms that I use. In fact, I used them in this video. And good for them. My information is free. And I highly recommend this company if they continue to make them like this. When you're hanging a mural like this, it's beneficial to lay it out. Now, I'm in a limited space, but I laid it out. First of all, you want to know what's up and what's down. Okay? This will help you determine that. It's not always the case that the lead piece, when you open the roll, is the top. Oftentimes, I hang wallpaper, and when you unroll it, the top is the first piece that comes out, and then you go to hang the third and fourth roll, and for some reason it's rolled differently. So please, if you're a new hanger or you're doing it yourself, please keep that in mind. Secondly, you want to get a look at every sheet. Here's why. I've seen murals that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you get to the sixth one, only half of it has the pattern, or this much of the strip, and you thought since it has the full sheet, it has all the pattern on it. Not the case. So this happened when I started hanging murals. So you want to make sure that each panel has pattern on it fully. And if it doesn't, you want to plan your layout accordingly. Now, this is why I laid it out. I wanted to see, since the mural company didn't provide me with a picture of the mural condensed on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. That's very helpful when they do that. And not every, if you manufacturers are listening, please give us the way the mural looks on the label or on a sheet of paper that comes with the mural. I wanted to see if that flower down there on the left sheet requires that I symmetrically place the mural and have the same flower over here. And it doesn't. It doesn't have that. In other words, if you have that flower all the way over there, you see that flower there? And you have on the end the same flower in the same place, well then here's how you want to hang this thing. You want to make sure that the same amount of pattern on the first sheet is the same as the amount of pattern that shows here. So in this entire width, let's say I have 150 inches from there to here, and I have a flower there, and I have that flower, the same flower right here. Well, I'm going to want to hang it symmetrically in the sense that the same amount that I trim off of this piece is the same amount that I trim off of this piece, so that we have symmetry, in which case we would really be starting in the middle when we hang it, at least planning wise. The directions on this mural happen to say start on the left side. Well, they're just giving you a rule, their own rule. That's not necessarily the case that you have to do that. If you have a pattern that has that flower on the left side and the same flower over here, you want to start in the middle so that there's no way of cutting too much of that sheet off and not enough of this off, or vice versa. If you start in the middle, you will end up, I mean right in the middle, you will end up with the same amount cutting off of that as you will of this. But in this case, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because we're not cutting anything off here, okay? And each of these panels is a little wider than 24 inches. So I take my tape measure and I go up against the wall with my tape measure out. My panel is 24.5 inches. And so this is an overlap panel. So we're going to overlap this one onto the one before it. And we're going to cut in the middle of our overlap. So we're going to overlap it 1/2 inch. And we're going to be making our cut in the middle of that 1/2 inch, which will mean how much will I trim off of each sheet? Well, I'll be trimming off 1/2 inch of each sheet. And what is 1/2 inch? It's 4/8. So 1/2 inch is 2/8, right? So I'll be doing 2/8. And so when you map this out, you have to take into account that if you take the total width from there to here, every time you have a seam, you're losing 1/8 inch from the total, right? Because you're going to overlap this sheet onto that one 1/2 inch, and you'll be cutting in the middle, which means you'll be taking 1/8 inch off of this one, 1/8 inch off of this one, which will give you 2/8. I lose 2/8 there. I lose another 2/8 here, 2/8 there, 2/8 here, and 2/8 here, and 2/8 here. So that for every seam, I lose 2/8 inch. So when you map this out, you want to make sure that you take into account 2/8 inch times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you deduct that amount accordingly. So if you add it all up, it's 1 1/4 of an inch that I lose on the total of the width. What I'm talking about right now is particularly important if you have a pattern that has symmetry in it, meaning you have the large rows over there and you have the same exact large rows over here. Well, you want to set it up where you take into account where you're going to lose 1/4 of an inch from the width of the mural. So here's what you would do. You would share the 1/4 of an inch that you're going to be losing on the totality of the wall. You would take, so half of 1 1/4 of an inch, you would cut that much off on this side, and you would take half of a 1 1/4 of an inch and make sure that you trim it on that side the same amount. Because if you don't take that into account, as you're cutting all of these pieces, you will wind up with the pattern on this side being off by 1 1/4 inches. I hope that makes sense to you. Start in the middle. How's that? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, just start in the middle, and it will make its way work for you regardless. How's that? So this is how our wall is looking. I haven't sanded this. I used a 10-inch taping knife with joint compound, and that is the level of smooth that I have achieved. Little lines like this with this mural, I just rubbed with my finger. I'll find another one. See this one? When this dries, if you have rough fingers, you can sand your joint compound with your fingers, believe it or not. Believe it or not. You just have to wait till it's dry. You can get rid of these lines. Look, I'll show you. See how I'm going? I'm not going this way with the line. I'm going across the line. Didn't I just make that line disappear? Comes with time and experience, to be honest with you. But I share it with you. There's tons of things to learn, right? That's why we share our expertise. Look, see that line? You don't want to sand it. You don't want that in your lungs. The customer doesn't want it on their furniture either. Okay? See that line there? Watch. All gone. How about that guy? We'll leave him alone. One time I killed a bug in a woman's house, and she said, "Why did you do that to me?" I said, "What?" She said, "Why did you kill that bug?" I stopped working for that woman. So I lay my tape measure across the width of the mural, keeping in mind that I'll have to subtract from the total due to the fact that I will be condensing this mural simply by overlapping it. But here, it's not overlapped, as you can see. I come up with 147 inches. So 147 minus 1 1/4 of an inch gives me what? 145 3/4. So I'm going to need 131.5 inches of mural. So my wall is 131.5 inches. My mural is 145 3/4 of live space after trimming. So you can take the difference and cut that off of the end of each side of the left and of the right, leaving yourself 2 inches. before final trimming. If we do our math, if we subtract 131.5 from 145 3/4, we'll come up with 14.25 inches of extra wallpaper that we don't need. If we share that on each side, we come up with 7 inches on each side. And so, to make things easier, you could simply trim off 4 inches from the left and 4 inches from the right, so that when you put it on, it's not sticking to the wall. Leave yourself some room though. So you might want to pre-trim it, or you might want to just give it a go and go ahead without trimming it. But I'm just showing you what goes into it when you do this. When you're working alone, and most of us paper hangers work alone, but a lot of folks who do it yourself projects hang peel and stick wallpaper, so you'll have an easier time than I'm having right now. This is my friend. You have a helper. I don't. So I'm using an industrial clamp to hold the wallpaper down as I pull the backing off of the product. All right, and that's how I do it. Now, only take off the amount with which you're comfortable working. Okay, in this case, with this beautiful product, I showed you before, when this gets stuck to this, it comes apart. Well, with other products, it's not the case, and it'll ruin your product. By the way, if you have a problem with your peel and stick sticking to itself, simply YouTube Spencer Colgan peel and stick, and something like what to do when your wallpaper gets stuck to itself, something like that. You will eventually find it. I did a floral, a big beautiful rose, and it got stuck to itself. And I show you how to get rid of the problem. This is a 9-inch paint roller. If you can't get your hands on something smooth with which to lay out your peel and stick, especially the thin stuff, use this. Let me show you how well it works in getting out the air. Look at how wonderfully that works. Now let's perfect it. Easy does it. Look at the angle I'm holding this on. It's not like this. That'll make dents in it. Nice and tight to the wall. Get in there. Bring you up close. Show you what I'm doing. just making the seam a little more impressionable or pliable. Just a little bit.